Hello and welcome to D&D Enhanced, the show where we laugh in the face of limitations and make up our own rules. Because we are living gods! Today we are stuffing a full crafting system into D&D. Not because the current crafting system sucks, even though it totally does, but because we've also got a harvesting mechanic to go along with it, letting players harness the body parts and even souls of the creatures they defeat to craft epic magic items, weapons, and familiars. This system appears in my book, Ryoko's Guide to the Yokai Realms, out now on Kickstarter, and was first introduced in Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting. But we're going over the core rules right now. But first, what's wrong with the current crafting rules in D&D? Well, to put it bluntly, they don't exist. The DMG crafting rules just give a cost to whatever item you want to make based on its rarity, and a number of days that it takes to make it. So it's exactly the same as just buying the item, except it takes longer. There are no crafting mechanics. Xanathar's Guide also has a section on crafting, but the mechanics are identical. It's just now you need proficiency in the Arcana skill. They tried to make it more interesting by adding complications, but these are just basically 6 plot hooks the DM can throw at the players while they're crafting. But that's not a crafting mechanic, it's just 6 things that could happen while the players are making stuff. You could just as easily tag on a complication that one of the party gets addicted to bardcore metal and goes on a 7-day long rave. A good harvesting and crafting system needs to do 3 things. 1. Inspire the DM and players to engage with the story. Be it seeking out a badass monster to hunt for parts, training in a certain profession to craft really well, or adding mechanics to the items that players craft that tell a story of their own. 2. It needs to be more than just a merchant in disguise. It needs to have tactics and creativity involved so it is rewarding to do. 3. Be collaborative, because if we're gonna put something into this game, we may as well make sure everyone is having fun. Okay, let's dive into it. And by the way, there is a full PDF down below of the light version of these rules for you to use in your games immediately. So make sure you grab that for reference. Harvesting rules. Let's be real, you can't craft something without components. Where do you get components? Well, from the monsters that you slay. Obviously. This encourages players to seek out rare and magical beasts to murder to get their hands on their precious, precious liver. Part 1. Available components. So every creature type in the game has its own harvest table like this one, which tells the DM what components are available for harvesting after the players defeat that creature. For this dragon, you've got your eyes, flesh, and blood, all the way down to your heart and breath sac. Each creature also has an essence based on its CR. The higher the CR of the creature, the more powerful the essence and the more powerful items you can craft with that essence, as shown in this table. For example, slaying a young red dragon, CR 10, will let you harvest a robust essence, letting you craft a rare magic item. But hold up, it is not that easy. The magic within creatures in D&D is volatile and fleeting, and you have to be harvesting from them within 1 minute of you killing them, otherwise the magic disappears. It also takes at least 5 minutes to harvest components, so even if the party slays 10 creatures in a single encounter, they're probably going to be able to harvest from 2 if they split up to cover more ground. This rule just keeps the game going, and it means the DM can throw a load of creatures at the party without worrying about giving them a billion harvesting components. Finally, each creature type is different, right? And we want to reward all our players with different skills to encourage them to get in on the action. So every creature type in the game has its own associated skill to harvest from it. Here's the table. Aberrations require Arcana, beasts are better handled by those good at survival, celestials are easier to harvest if you're proficient in religion, and if you want to cut up a human, you better be good at medicine. This way, different players and skills will shine at different times, depending on the creature that you are harvesting from. And if you want your character to be, say, really good at hunting and harvesting dragons, you're going to want to pick up survival proficiency. With that in mind, let's see how this harvesting thing actually works. The harvest DC. So after slaying the dragon, the party have to decide what components they're going to try to harvest, and list them in order of preference. That's important. Each component has a harvest DC shown in their table, which describes how difficult it is to extract that component. The DM calculates the final harvest DC by listing each component and adding together their respective DCs. Here's an example of how it might look if players set out to harvest a pouch of teeth, 2 eyes, the breath sac, and a robust essence from this one dragon. Now the players make a harvesting check to see what they actually get, and they get everything with a cumulative lower total than their results. If they'd have put the breath sac first, they could have grabbed that along with 2 eyes with the same 37 total. This is why it's important you prioritize the component that you want the most when you harvest. But hold on a second, what actually is a harvesting check? The harvesting check represents how well you harvest components from a creature. The better you do, the more stuff you're going to get from your list. It is formed of 2 different checks added together, an assessment check and a carving check. The assessment check is basically the knowledge needed to extract stuff. It is the brain power. As such, it is an intelligence check. You make your assessment check by rolling 1d20, adding your intelligence modifier, and then adding your proficiency bonus if you're proficient with the skill required to harvest from that creature. The second part is the carving check. This is the literal cutting up of the body to get stuff. Add those 2 checks together and bam, that is your harvesting check. Usually, you're going to want to have one player doing the assessing and another player doing the carving, because if one player tries to make both checks, they roll both of them at disadvantage. Because you're adding 2 checks together, each with their own proficiency and ability score bonuses, you can actually get some really high harvesting checks, especially by the late game. But wait, there is one last thing. Other people can help you harvest as well. If a creature wants to help out, but they aren't making the assessment or carving check, they are considered a helper. They can add their proficiency bonus to the final harvesting check if they're proficient in the skill required to harvest from that creature, or half their proficiency bonus if they're not. The size of the creature also impacts how many people can help, as shown in this table. Unfortunately, you can't get 10 people to harvest 1 snail, it's just too dang small. Okay, I know that was a lot to take in, but it's really not that bad. Let's summarize. 1. Kill creature. 2. Check the table to see what components you can harvest from that creature. 3. List the components you want in order of importance. 4. DM adds the component DCs together like in this table. 5. Make a harvesting check by having one player assess, another player carve, and any other players help. 6. You get all the stuff with a lower cumulative DC than your end result. Finally, bigger creatures take longer to harvest, so if you're going to be carving up a Tarrasque, be prepared to be hanging around for a long time. Okay, so now that you've harvested these materials, what do you actually do with them? Well, you make awesome stuff, obviously. Crafting mechanics. So there's 2 elements to crafting magic items, making the base item itself and then enchanting it. The creation of a mundane object is called manufacturing. Stuffing magic inside is called enchanting. Manufacturing. This is super simple. There's a big old table with just about every mundane object you could want to make. Each one shows off the tools, gold, and time you need to make that thing. Each tool also has its own associated ability score you can use to wield them. Alchemist supplies require intelligence. Carpenter's supplies can use strength or dexterity. All you need to do then is make a manufacturing check. Roll the d20, add your ability score modifier, and your proficiency bonus if you're proficient with those tools. If you beat the DC of the item, which is also listed on this table, boom, you're done. The exciting bit is the enchanting. This is the part where you juice up a normal item with magic. It's also the part where the components you harvested earlier become important. To enchant an item, you need 3 things: a component harvested from a magical creature, the item itself, and an essence, also harvested from a creature. Every item in Ryoko's guide also includes the crafting materials needed to make it, so players and GMs will know exactly what they need to harvest to make a magic item. Also, as we already know, the CR of the creature dictates the power of its essence, and the more powerful the essence, the more powerful the items you can make. The items in Ryoko's guide come at different rarity variants, so if the players want to craft a breastplate of the Ascendant Dragon using a frail essence, essence, it'll be the uncommon variant. If they craft using a potent essence, it'll be the very rare version instead. This way, the more powerful the creatures the players are fighting and harvesting from, the more powerful gear they get as a reward. The higher power level of the item also impacts how long it takes to enchant and the DC required for the enchanting check. All that information is contained in this handy little table. So, what actually is an enchanting check? Well, just like with harvesting checks, the creature you harvested from impacts the skill used to enchant with its components. Constructs use investigation, plants use nature, etc. Unlike with harvesting, however, the ability score you use to enchant with is your spellcasting ability score. So for wizards, it's intelligence, for clerics, it's wisdom, etc. If you're a non-spellcasting class, you can use an optional rule to enchant with any mental score of your choice. The magic within the item comes from its ingredients, not necessarily from you if you use this optional rule. Then, to enchant something, all you need to do is spend the time required working on it. This time doesn't need to be consecutive, and at the end of that time, make an enchanting check. This is 1d20 plus your spellcasting ability modifier plus your proficiency bonus if you're proficient in the skill that creature type requires. If that result beats the DC of the item you're trying to craft, congratulations, you've got it. But don't worry, even if you fail, your time isn't wasted. This is actually the coolest part of this entire system. If you fail the enchanting check, the item will still be made, but depending on how much you fail by, it'll get some quirky behaviors. The amount of flaws a magic item has after you finish enchanting it is shown on this table. So if you try to whip up a rare magic item and you roll a 16 on your check, you're going to make it, and it's going to have one flaw. If the item is attunement, the flaw is only active while you're attuned to it. Otherwise, it's active while it's on your person. Ryoko's guide includes a bunch of interesting quirks magic items can have, building stories out of failure as much as success, and there's some included in the free Harvesting and Crafting document light in the description. For example, the Scrappy feature has your magic item shout insults at strangers because it has a bloodlust and wants to get you into fights. Or the Nyctophobia feature gives your magic item a fear of the dark, meaning it trembles in darkness and gives other creatures advantage on perception checks to find you. Of course, if you just want to make your normal magic items more interesting, you can steal these flaws and give them to magic items that your players find while adventuring in the world. Maybe it could be a downside to a powerful magical weapon that the party need to find a way to overcome or remove. And yeah, that's the basics of it. Of course, all of this and more is in Ryoko's guide, along with over 40 magic items with a bunch of different rarity variants that you can use in your games. You can also reference the PDF in the description to use a watered-down version of these mechanics in your games right away. At the time of recording, Ryoko's guide is at over $1.5 million funded, and every time we reach a new milestone, we unlock more stuff to make the book better value for everyone. Check it out, link below and on screen somewhere, and yeah, that's basically all I got. See you next time.